What's up, everybody? Welcome back to This Weird House. I am Nick Boddick, and if anybody knows me, they know I have two interests. That's horror and stand-up comedy. I've interviewed so many of my favorite authors, but this is the first time I'm going I'm going to the other branch of my only two passions in life, and I am here with the incredible Mike Rainey. What's up, Mike?
Nick, thanks for having me, brother. I'm happy to be on today, man.
No doubt, man. So yeah, dude. Mike is the host of two podcasts, two of the best podcasts. The only Patreons I subscribe to anymore, actually, which you should because it's totally worth it. Dad Meat with Tim Butterly and Lil Stinkers with John DelCollo and Jake Mattera. And Lil Stinkers in particular, we were just talking off here, and that's just right up my alley, dude. Comedy and serial killers. It's I can't. I don't even know, man. I'm just tripping over my words. I'm fucking. I'm already fucking this up, dude. So, anyways, yeah, man. I had you here today because I know that you are pretty open with your history with substance abuse and
Mhm.
sobriety as a result of that substance abuse. And or just right off top, On Percs is Mike's book that chronicles his Facebooking through his Percocet addiction, and it's incredible, and you should definitely buy it. Um, I'm doing all your plugs for you, dude. I'm sorry. I
No,
don't.
no, makes it easy,
I've
man.
never had someone who also does like regular podcasting on before, so I don't really know like the etiquette and shit.
Just let it rip,
um,
man.
for sure. So I guess just could you give us like a quick rundown of like your history with substance abuse? Like, were you a toddler smoking opium and shit, or like did it come later in life that you started partying and all that?
I think I started drinking when I was like 16, and I was always like very anxious, like anxious to the point of like not leaving the house because I felt like something awful was going to happen.
That's me
So,
now.
dude, I know the feeling, bro, because it was just I still kind of feel that, but not nearly as severe as it was when I was younger. But like when I was
Yeah.
16, I started drinking, and it just made every interaction a billion times easier. So it's like, okay, I'll go with this. And then I didn't get into hard drugs until my late 20s. I had a friend who was into coke, and he just happened to have it out one day. But once I tried it, I was just off to the races with that, man. And it was just, I could feel how I ideally always wanted to feel. Alcohol always helped it, but with coke, it was just coke and alcohol was just like my sweet spot.
Yeah.
And then in 2012, I had to have back surgery, and I started getting painkillers. And the month before this happened, I had a really what I thought was going to be rock bottom. It was just the worst of the worst with coke and booze. And I was like, all right, I'm not doing anything. But as luck would have it, a month later, I get hurt to the point where I need painkillers for a little while. And I started getting those, and because I didn't have the crutch of the other things, I was just off to the races with painkillers, and it was just so hard to give up. Naturally, one, because the drug is what it is, but also because you got a doctor giving it to you every month. You're just getting more and more for virtually nothing.
Yep.
And it took me close to 3 years to finally be done with those. And fortunately, I stopped doing those in, I think, 2015 was the last time I had an opioid. And fortunately, I don't have any kind of hankering for opioids again. Alcohol and coke are different, man. Every now and again, like I'll get like damn, that was fun, or like damn, like I'll pass like a beer billboard and be like, holy shit, I would kill for a Budweiser right now. But
For
I
sure.
mean, I have a good idea where that's going to lead if I do go down that route again. So for now, I'm chilling, and I'm not, no coke, booze, or pills for me, man. But yeah, I had a good run, man. I had a lot of fun, but then there was also like a lot of heartache along the way. I went to rehab for a while, and that was helpful. Um, but yeah, like each of those three things was like their own, I don't know, its own monster, and it took me varying degrees of time to get rid of each. And the thing that I
Yeah.
wish somebody had told me uh, going into when first started to try to leave each of those things behind was like you have to look at any kind of progress as a step toward getting to where you want to be. Like if I could put together, when I stopped boozing regularly, I would put together maybe like 3, 4 months at a time, and then have like a bender one night and just feel terrible about myself. Where the reality was, it's like before that time, I was drinking every day. So putting together 3 or 4 months was a massive fucking deal.
For sure.
So if anybody out there is struggling with this shit right now, just know that that's the case. Like you're probably not going to nip it in the bud on your very first time at leaving this shit behind, and you have to start looking at those incremental bits of progress for what they are, and it is progress, and that's what all this shit is. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and you can't view it any other way because you're just going to set yourself up for failure.
Well said, dude, for sure. So, Alexa, turn the heater off. Yeah, dude, so my issue, well, I've had, like yourself, I've had several. Started drinking. I really didn't start doing anything until I was almost 19 years old, actually. In high school, I would like go to parties, but I just didn't really have any interest in it. I don't know what changed, but right around the time I got around 19 years old, I started drinking, and I was just there. Once I drank, I always drank. And that lasted for a good like 2 years where I was pretty much just shit faced all day, every day. And I was selling drugs at the time. And so I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything to keep me from doing it. And then coincidentally, actually, so I started doing ecstasy in like 2011 ish. And that was another one that I look at my own history and I'm like, I have no capability of moderation. And like, I feel like when people talk about sobriety, there's almost like an inherent, like, oh, you shouldn't do anything ever. But like, I feel like most people can moderate. But
Yes.
it's just the people that can't are the ones that really cannot. And
Mm-hmm.
I was the type that could not, because I was doing like 7 to 10 ecstasy pills daily for months at a time,
Mm-hmm.
sleeping 2 hours a night. Not, I lost like 80 pounds in the summer of 2011. And then I was able to give that up cold turkey. Did cocaine for 2012, and that was another one where just one day I couldn't get it, and I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm done with cocaine, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then 2012, end of 2012, got into a car accident, and like you, I got prescribed perks, and my doctor was very generous. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was like I'd found my calling, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like that. These were made for me. This
Yeah.
is the way I need to feel all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I like, luckily, you never got to the point where the perks just didn't do it anymore,
Mm-hmm.
because I eventually got into like heroin and shit. And I, you said 2015 was when you got clean, right? Sorry, I have 5 cats, by the way, so
Oh,
they
cool.
might
I got
make
three,
noise.
man. Yeah, I had
Okay, they
a.
might make some noise. Hi, baby.
Oh, good, man.
Yeah. So 2015 is when I ultimately got clean. I was doing opiates for about 3 years, like yourself, actually, and rehab the whole thing, and it was just such a fast downward spiral that like
Mm-hmm.
it does not surprise me at all when I hear about people who like cannot get clean.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I just count myself so lucky every day that
Yeah, man.
I was one of the ones who was able to, because I feel like I always say, like, I think I had like a month of like good luck left before I would have either been dead or in jail.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I can
yeah,
identify with that shit, man. Because similar things, man. I got very lucky. Like I look back on instances with alcohol, instances with coke, instances with painkillers. There's just a lot of luck involved. There was like bad shit that happened, but it could have been 1,000 times worse, and I just got lucky. But I feel especially lucky in regards to just giving up opioids because there was one time after I was like, okay, I'm done, where I relapsed on opioids, but it was just once. Whereas everything with coke and booze, it was just I can't even count how many times I went back to it. But for some reason, even though it was just a constant thing for me for those 3 years, it was just like when I felt like I was done, I felt like I was done. Um, I don't know what I can attribute it to, and I think a big part of it is it's easier now because I'm older. I'm 45 now, and I'm able to see that I got 3 kids too, and it's like now it's like they're their own people now. Whereas I felt like at that time where I was still out doing what I wanted to do, they were just kids. My wife had things
yeah,
under control, I thought, and it was just like easy to rationalize that. Whereas now it's like, everybody's clearly their own person, and it took me, some significant amount of time away from all that shit to like realize that and be like, okay, like I'm making up these people's minds for them on how to feel about me, and I just didn't want to have that kind of negative perception that I started to pick up on at the end.
Yeah, for sure. And the ease of rationalization, like that, the addict's brain, dude, is like there's no match in terms of rationalizing and justifying any kind of behavior
Hmm.
that is in service of getting what you want, which is like that next high.
Hmm.
And I mean, the lies I told, the lies I didn't even need to tell, like, because dude, I just got so used to just, and I thought I was like the best liar in the world, dude. Like I would show up on Mother's Day with fucking heroin caked inside of my nose, and my mom would be like, "What's that?" I'd be like, "Oh, it's a the fuck was that? God damn it, kid!" And my mom would be like, what is that?" I was like, "Oh, bloody nose. The air conditioning went out, and the air
Hmm.
filter is wrong, so dust. And I have a bloody. I've never gotten bloody noses in my life. The lady's
Yeah.
known me my entire life, like just stupid shit like that.
It's exhausting, man. I think that's one of the things that's kind of like, kind of ignored about like addiction. Everybody, it's easy to focus on like the physical aspects of it and, the criminal aspects or the monetary aspects of it. But dude, it's a full-time job, and it's
Oh
like,
yeah,
and everything about it is just, a full-time system of worry. Like, all right, you got to meet a guy here, but he's not going to be the guy that has the thing. It's like, all right, you got to follow him to like this place. And it's just like, for the love
the
of God,
run
I
around.
just want pills, man.
Yeah, dude. Like it was just yeah, it was obviously it was the same for heroin. I think it actually got a lot harder to find pills once
Hmm.
heroin just kind of blew up again and like the whole epidemic started. Because that was basically the reason that I started heroin was because I was fine doing perks for a while.
Hmm.
And I said before that like perks didn't do the job, but like I think I would have continued to do them and just because I mean even at the end of my run with heroin, I never really got high anymore. I got not sick,
Hmm.
and so one day I couldn't get perks. I was feeling like shit, wanted to kill myself. I was hurting so bad, and so one of my guys was like, "Well, I got this," and I'm like, "Okay," and then that was perks times 1,000, and again off to the races.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, dude, it's a full time job is a good way to put it, dude. Like it's it's finding a place to do it where no one will see, it's maintaining and the whatever semblance of a real life you have left once you're
Yeah.
full blown addict,
And I think,
like
that's that was like the last point I was at, because I was always like able to rationalize it because I worked two jobs at the same time. And it's like, all right, I'm making decent money. However, any excess money that I had, I was blowing on pills. And
mm-hmm.
then, I would get my prescription, and I would be like, oh, fuck, I need money for this. So then I'd have to sell pills. And I remember one instance where I was meeting a guy at Dunkin' Donuts to sell him pills. And I forget what I put. I think I put it in like a DVD case or something, all his pills. And I sat down and I handed it to him, and he handed me the money under the table. And I was like, oh man, we kind of look shady right now. Like, we should probably get a donut. So I went and I got two donuts. So it's like, as I'm eating this donut, I'm like, I don't want donuts. I don't want to be with this guy right now. I hate everything about this, man. So it's like, not only am I doing pills, but I'm also doing donuts.
Yeah, dude. I had so many of those moments where I was able to like take a step outside of myself and outside this situation and look at it objectively and be like, wow, dude, like I'm a piece of shit.
Hmm.
Like just like this sucks.
Yeah.
Everything about what's happening in my immediate circle right
Yeah.
now is just the worst. This is everything I hate about life. All in one gas station parking lot. Like like dude, I remember I worked at a BW3s once and the amount of heroin residue left over on the baby changing tables in the bathroom,
Oh man.
you could scrape a key off of that thing because of me. Like just fucking taking like bi-hourly breaks to go sniff heroin while I'm working and have tables waiting on me and going
Hmm.
out there with like a runny nose and being like spicy garlic or
Yeah.
buffalo. Like fucking dude, like it was just I was a mess, dude. Like it was fucking terrible.
Yeah, I think more
Uh
than anything else, I mean, yeah, I mean, other shit does improve. It's like, you have money for other things. Physically, you feel better, but it's just more of a relief than anything else. And I think that's kind of like what helps me. If there was one factor that I could pick that helps keep me away from that shit now, it's that I just don't want the stress of all that. And thinking about, going back to that or thinking about those specific times, you feel that stress all over again. And
Mm-hmm.
fortunately, I feel like I'm at a point where that's enough to just, slam the brakes on any kind of like romanticization of that.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's easy to think about like the fun times you had, like chilling,
Mm-hmm.
blowing pills with your friends, like getting. I mean, maybe you weren't. Maybe you were like me and only liked getting high by yourself and then shutting yourself off to the world. I don't know, but like, I mean, there were, for as bad as all those times were, like romanticizing it is a good way of putting it because you can kind of reshape those things to be like, oh well, like being high felt wonderful, and
Mm-hmm.
like it's easy to separate that from the absolute feeling of wanting to die when you didn't have that high anymore.
Yeah.
And like it's the you mentioned earlier the staying away from, like, you'll see a sign for some beer and you'll know what that happens, like playing that tape through
Mm-hmm.
is a huge part for me because so I've been clean since 2015.
Nice.
Just celebrated 8 years.
Congrats, man.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And like you, I don't really get like cravings. I've always felt very lucky in that regard. It took me a couple tries. I only went to rehab once, but I think every addict has tried to get clean on their own. I think a lot of addicts will say they're trying to get clean just to, I guess, save face, kind of maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I mean, I've never met an addict who's like, yeah, dude, I love heroin. Like, it's great. Fucking. So, like, I tried getting clean a few times myself and it didn't work. But one thing that works for me is like, I know it will start with a beer and I know for a fact it will lead to heroin.
Mm-hmm.
It's not if, it's when, just because I know myself and like, that's just how I operate. Um, but yeah, dude, it's the keeping in mind all of just the horrible shit is. I definitely sold heroin in Dunkin' Donuts parking lot too, or at Dunkin' Donuts and like inside the parking lot and inside.
Dude, what if we were at the same Dunkin' at the same time?
Dude, right? Like you were off selling pills, eating donuts you didn't want, and I'm just like sweating in the corner, like
Nick, maybe that's why Ben Affleck's always dropping his shit now. Oh my God.
Yeah,
We got to have an intervention for Ben Affleck, dude.
I think we figured it out, dude. um Speaking of being in your neck of the woods, dude, one of the worst memories I have of being an active addict started in Allentown,
Allentown? Yeah.
Allentown, Pennsylvania. My dad was out there for work, and he didn't know I was a drug addict because we haven't lived together, since I was a kid or whatever. But it was easy to hide from him. But I went out to visit him, and I brought enough drugs that I thought, like, I convinced myself that I was enough of, like, I wasn't so bad of an addict that I would need X amount of drugs to get through it. I would only need this amount.
Right.
So I brought it. They were gone in the first of 3 days. And then, so the next 2 days, I am violently withdrawing. And my dad is like, what the fuck is going on with you? I was like, I just got the flu, like I need more protein in my diet. Like,
Yeah.
and dude, my dad was like, all right, I'm just going to send you on a plane home because this sucks. And I was sitting in an airport in Minneapolis and I was talking to this dude. I remember his name was Jermaine. And I'm sitting there dying. And we're just like, I'm sitting there like fucking shivering, shaking. And I'm playing it off well enough. I say that, but just now in retrospect, I probably wasn't. But I'm talking to him, and mid-sentence, I just like projectile vomit all over this dude. And I was like, oh my God. And as I stood up, God, I can't believe I'm going to imagine this, dude, or I'm going to fucking say, dude, as I stood up, it was like, the dam broke and I just shit myself in this airport. And dude, so I'm like run walking through this Minneapolis airport, like shitting myself while vomiting through my hand, dude, and like I lean into a garbage can and like I'm throwing up in that while I'm just like evacuating my entire like soul out of my asshole.
Oh my god.
And dude, it was so fucking embarrassing, dude. And like I had to get cleaned up. Some random guy went and bought me pants from like this place in the
Oh,
airport, which was awesome. Um, and then I basically spent the entire flight moving back and forth to the bathroom, just like shitting my life out.
oh, dude.
And it was that was probably the single worst I've ever felt, both like physically and like emotionally. It was
Hmm.
so goddamn embarrassing, dude.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I remember this dude Jermaine. He, as soon as I threw up, he just goes, "What happened?" And I just, and I'm just like, "Fuck, man! Like that guy has a story for the ages." He was like, "Damn, dude, some fucking cracker in Minneapolis just like died in front of me."
Dude, you're the reason why he has never had a conversation with a white boy since then.
Dude, I vomited and shit racism into an otherwise very kindly gentleman. Like,
Dude, you know how Joker used to have a card saying like, "I'm not laughing at you, like I have a condition." Like that's
yeah,
probably what
yeah.
Jermaine has right now. It's like I'm not trying to be rude, but I just had very bad experiences with conversations with white boys.
Yes, dude, probably like I thought about the conversation he had like with his wife when he got home because he
Oh my
mentioned he was
god, man.
married. And dude, I remember he said he was in Albany. So like if Jermaine, if you ever see this, hey dude, my bad. Like I fucking threw up all over this man. Like, and he was cool about it. Like to his credit, he was cool about it. Like not that I didn't expect him to be, but like he was very
Mhm.
like
It's
magnanimous with fucking yeah.
it's
Because
hard
I
though. It's like I mean, I can't imagine how I'd react if somebody threw up on me. It's like, I want to believe that, there's enough compassion in me to know that like this is not intentional, unless it's like fucking Steve-O, but at the same time it's like you've just altered his entire day and you've given him something that he'll remember until the end of time.
yeah, dude. Yeah, I think the same thing. Like I think I'm a kind enough person. I'd be like, all right, well, it was obviously a mistake, but I feel like a knee jerk reaction would be to just like hit someone. Like, and I hope I wouldn't. Like, like I might want to. Like, my immediate gut reaction might just be to commit violence on a person that just
Yeah.
fucking threw up all over me and then shit themselves 4 feet away from me. But I don't know. Who's to say, right? um. So going back to just, I guess, like lying and stuff. I don't know. Did your family know that you were like, what was your family through your drinking, through your cocaine, through? I guess I don't really know how long you've been married. I don't know how old your kids are.
Yeah, so my wife and I, we've been together now for 22 years, I think. So at the time where like this was like at its worst, we had been together for over a decade. And initially, she's on board because I was very fucked up. It's like I couldn't work for like a few months. I couldn't do anything. So initially, it was just like, all right, yeah, get what you need. But I think after that, it's clear that I probably needed pills for maybe 2 weeks with what I had going on. But it's like, yeah, there's no way I'm giving all this shit up. So
Yeah.
I think it was just tolerated, and I think part of that was because, like I said, like once I did go back to work, I went back to work in two jobs, and you know, you just don't want to have that argument with somebody because you know what their side's going to be. I would just anytime it got brought up, it would be like, all right, well, I work, I do this, I do that, so and I need them,
Justification.
right? Yeah, there's nonstop justifications, but my wife was like the closest family member to me. Like my parents were like they're kind of like at a distance. Like we don't have any problems, but it's just like they do their thing and I do mine thing.
Yeah, you're an adult.
However,
Yeah.
yeah, but there were times, especially with like there were two times especially where I had to call my dad to like for help because I just didn't know what to do in regards to just like being on cocaine benders. Like the first time he ended up, getting me into a rehab, which was awesome. And then the second time was just him picking me up at there's a park across from all the sports stadiums in Philly called FDR Park. I had been out all night doing coke in South Philly, and I was like, "Can you just meet me at FDR Park?" Which is never a message you want to get from somebody at like 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning, man. But he did, and he was cool about it. And I stayed at my parents' house for a few days after that because that was a rough one. So they were aware that I had issues with that shit. I don't know how often they or how long they knew the extent of the issues because it was always changing, you know. So,
Yeah.
but like my wife, you know, she kind of, you know, saw it front and center for all those years until I finally started to get my shit together.
Yeah. It's good that you were able to like call your dad with that. Um, I, I I convinced myself I couldn't have. I definitely could have done the same,
Mm-hmm.
but with trying to reveal, like they say, admitting it is, you know, the first step, or you know, the admitting it is the big part. Like admitting it to yourself and to someone else. And I remember when I was in the middle of perks, it had just gotten bad. Like it was, I probably needed him for maybe a month. At this point, it had been like a year and a half. And I was a full blown Percocet addict by this time. And I had a girlfriend at the time. I'd been with her for a couple years. Like it was a serious relationship. And I remember I, she was away at college at the time, and it was about an hour and a half away, and I texted her, and I was just like, you remember that car accident I got into last year or whenever? And I was like, I think I am addicted to these pills. And it probably clicked a lot in her mind,
Mm-hmm.
but fuck her, because she drove straight to my house and was like, offered no kind of help whatsoever. She was just like, if you are doing these pills, we're done. Fuck you. Like that is just such weak behavior. Like made me feel like such a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So I, being the like, of course I lied my way out of it. I was like, well, I don't want to fucking lose. I wish I would have had the clarity of mind at the time to be like, well, this is not a supportive person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so the one time I always think about, if she would have been supportive and I would have gone into like how different my life would be now.
Yeah.
And like I'm glad that didn't happen because my life now rules. But
Mm-hmm.
like it's just crazy to think about. And like I don't know, I like hearing when people were able to kind of present that difficult information to someone and get the support that they needed. Like
Mm-hmm.
because I've witnessed firsthand, or I've experienced firsthand not getting that, and it sucks. So
It is strange how different people react. Like they're like like my dad was just, you know, he was like, okay, what can I do to help? Like right off the bat. And there's also, I know there's like a shame aspect. Like, and I definitely felt that from my mom because my mom, like, you know, won't discuss it, you know, and it's kind of just like, you know, we'll talk about like trivial stuff, but it's never, you know, there was never really questions about like, you know, any addiction based stuff. And it's like, I get it. It's like, I think, you know, I think we're from a generation where it's like we're confronted with this stuff nonstop. So we're more, you know, I guess culturally intelligent
yeah.
and know that, you know, it's not just like, you know, a defect of character or, you know, all the components to go into like making this what it is. And I think it's just, you know, my parents, you know, they're just from a generation where it's just, you know, they've been hammered with like if you're into any kind of drugs, you know, you're weak.
Hmm.
So it's like I don't really fault them for that, but I do give my dad a lot of credit for just being like, you know, more, I don't know, more at the forefront of just saying like, okay, let's address this first. Let's do something that needs to be done, and then, you know, whatever needs to happen after that can happen.
Yeah, for sure. I do agree. I think it's definitely a generational thing because, I mean, to my whole family's credit, so I didn't go, uh, I wanted to stop doing heroin for at least a year before I
Mhm.
finally did. But I didn't think, like, my family doesn't have the money to put, I thought rehab was like you go away for 60 days to like
Mhm.
a facility. And I didn't know anything about like detox and then just, you know, local like rehabs. So I just never brought it up. And then my grandma actually brought it up to me, and she was like, in a text, I still remember it. She was like, "How's that monkey on your back doing?" And I was like, "Well, fuck." Like, I was like, "You knew? You
Yeah.
mean when I was falling asleep in my macaroni and cheese when I stopped by for dinner the other day, it gave it away?" Like, and so like my grandma and my mom revealed to me, basically, they were like, oh yeah, dude, you have state insurance. It's the best. They'll cover
Mhm.
everything. So I was like,
Mhm.
awesome. So when I went in, I was so ready.
Yeah.
And once I finally did, I was able to stay clean.
Mhm.
But I remember I was in this like outpatient program, and a couple weeks in, they had our family members come in for like a private like session to like kind of talk about everything. And my mom and my grandma, my sister were all there, and we're all talking, and my grandpa's just sitting there silent. And I remember, and like my grandpa's the coolest, like he's a great dude, love him to death. And my counselor lady was like, and what about you, Steve? Like, what are your thoughts on this? He's like, I don't know, I just don't fucking get it. Why doesn't he just not do it? Like, yeah, it's fucking, that is on brand for you, grandpa. And like, I get it from his
Mhm.
perspective too, because like he's from a time when like
Yeah.
they were just harder back then, and that's not like like a Gen X or Gen Z, whatever. I don't even know what generation I am, but like they're softer now. But like I don't know, I think there is some truth to like they were just like the hardships they endured like steeled them
And it
over.
did, and it's like, and it's, when they were presented with a problem, there was no, I don't know if I can do this. There was none of that. It's just like, this is a problem, and I have to address this, or else I'm going to fucking die.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just what they're, how they're accustomed to function. Both the men and the women from that era, just they're very, this is what life is, and I have to deal with it.
Yeah.
There's no like indecision, and it's like, I think the hardest thing for people to understand, especially with opioids, is like, you're taking something that's telling your brain that this is the best you're ever going to feel, and it is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's the best you're going to feel. So it's like you're at war with your own brain 24/7, because your brain just wants to seek out this insane amount of pleasure that it experienced a couple times, and there's no way to, like, there's no emergency shut off valve which is going to overrule that desire to have that feeling again.
Yeah.
And I think it's difficult for people who haven't taken these things to understand that, like, look, granted, I get, like, when people were mad about, like, all the, whether it's the scheming, the conniving, the lying shit, I get that. But at the same time, just know at the basis of this, it's like, this has to be addressed, because, this isn't how, like, if people could have a preference living like that, or just leading the straight and narrow, it's like people would probably take the straight and narrow almost every time.
Yeah. Yeah, I've said numerous times I would rather be sober and miserable than high and happy at this point. Like, cuz there's can always improve your situation, but once you're like on the other side of it, like it's fucking so difficult to maintain any semblance of like happiness when you're just a full-blown addict. And like any for me anyway, I don't mean to like put words in your mouth or like speak for to generalize it all, but like any kind of happiness I had back then, it was only happiness insofar as I had enough heroin to get through the day.
Mm-hmm.
Like if something good happened, if I wasn't high, it would have not been a good thing, and it was
Yeah.
only a good thing because I was high,
Mm-hmm.
or I wasn't sick.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, dude, it's such a fucking monster, dude, and like it's crazy that, dude, fentanyl is insane.
I
Like,
miss. I feel like I miss that. Like, and I kind of got lucky that everything happened for me the way that it did for a lot of different reasons. But when I went into rehab, it was 2006. So the Philly area wasn't like ravaged by opioids like it was then. It's like my dad contacted a rehab, and they got me in that morning, which it's unheard of now. Like, you would get waitlisted, no doubt.
mm-hmm.
And then on top of that too, when I was getting prescribed opioids in 2012, I think that was right before the cusp of, like, this, the insanity that it is now. Whereas, like, I probably wouldn't have gotten. Like, I might have gotten painkillers for like the first month, but then at the same time, I don't know that I would have gotten them after that, had it happened 10 years later.
Yeah, for sure. The crackdown that they've had on especially uh, prescription opioids is it's good. Like it's great that they do have the
Mm-hmm.
crackdown, because I remember I sold pills for a couple years before I started doing them,
Mm-hmm.
because I really never had an interest in doing drugs, and then until I until I discovered them and realized they were awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Um, until they weren't. But
Mhm.
like it was so easy to get them. Like you found someone who had an injury and a prescription, and then once you had that inroad, you could just you could bathe in Percocet.
Mhm.
Like you could fill up a bathtub and jump in it like Daffy Duck or Scrooge McDuck.
Mhm.
Like, and doctor shopping was a big thing. Like I don't know if that really hit your area at all. I've heard that Philly is like one of the worst places for the heroin epidemic.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad. Like I live a few minutes from the airport, so I'm just outside of Philly. But here it's bad. But then you could get like to the epicenter, which is like Kensington, which people do vlogs and shit about. It's like 20 minutes away, and that's as bad as it gets. And
Yeah.
going back to what you were saying about fentanyl, like toward the end of my run, is like I had a friend who was his mom was really sick and she was getting fentanyl patches, and like he would wear them, and I'd be like what the fuck are you doing? Like I knew she had pills too. It's like why don't you just take the pills? He's like, no, these fentanyl patches, these are like 10 times more potent than the fucking pills. And I was like, I don't know, man.
Yeah. It's I remember my grandma had fentanyl patches, and it was when I was back living with them because I got kicked out of there when I was like 18. Rightfully so. I was a
Mm-hmm.
fucking asshole. But I remember when I went back, it was right around the time I got in that car accident and started doing perks, and then yeah, I noticed I was like, oh, I know what these are now. I want to try these. I never did, luckily. Like I kind of just like I think it was a mix of like apprehension because I felt like I'd be crossing a line, and if I it was like a personal line, because I mean I feel like every person who starts off doing opiates is not like, all right, one day I'm gonna graduate to heroin. Like one day I'll make it. Like
Yeah, you get a
I'll show
diploma
you,
from your
Dad.
dealer.
Yeah, yeah, dude. Fucking, it's like rolling papers. But I also think it was like I felt bad stealing from my grandma. Like
Mhm.
I was weird. Like I had a weird. So like I said, I was a full blown heroin addict, but I did have like these. Callie, come on, man. I had these lines, not so much lines I wouldn't cross in terms of what I would do, like drug wise, but
Mhm.
lines I would cross. Like I refused to ever use money from that I got from my family. God damn it, Kelly, we stop fucking scratching. Stop being a dickhead. Sorry. Um, hi. Um, I would never use like money that I would if if I went and begged my mom for 20 bucks, it was because I had 20 bucks to of my own to
Mhm.
buy drugs with, but I knew that if I didn't use that $20 on food, I would, I wouldn't eat.
Yeah.
And I realize it's one and the same. Like I might as well have just used the money, but like in my head, I created
Mhm.
like this divide, and that was sort of a way that I was able to, again, justification, like being like, oh well, I'm using the $20 I already had in my pocket to give my dealer,
Yeah, and I
and
get
I'm
that.
using the $20 my mom gave me for food. So
Mhm.
she shouldn't ever have to feel bad that she gave me money for drugs. Like that was kind of my rationale, and
Mhm.
like that's fucking stupid. Like thinking about it, but like there's keeps coming back to the justification.
Yeah,
Like there's
I don't think it's stupid because you know what you're doing's fucked up, and you have to find a way to make it not fucked up. And I think as long as you have some kind of justification that you're going to have some kind of compromise, you're going to be like, okay, I can live with this.
yeah, and for me, like I remember there came a point when I just kind of accepted. I, I tried to, I guess, put on that act more so for myself than anybody else. I've never once I got out of high school, I did not give a shit what people thought of me. Like, and I think you should care what people think about you because that inherently
Hmm.
influences how you feel about yourself.
Hmm.
But like, I kind of put on an act trying to convince myself that I was not as bad off as I was,
Hmm.
and it just I got to a point where I just kind of accepted. I was like, damn, dude, I am a piece of shit. I am a drug addict, and I had kind of accepted that like Dude, I remember the most depressing like tweet or Facebook status or whatever I put out was like I was fucking being melodramatic and shit. I was like, the worst part of every day is the fact that I just woke up.
Mhm.
And like it was around the time that I put that up where I was just like, I this is my life and this is always going to be my life.
Mhm.
And I just kind of resigned myself to I'm going to be on this hunt until I'm either killed or I die. Like or
Yeah.
I overdose. And it it's so scary looking back at that now and like that's some dark shit. Like that is depressing as hell.
Mhm.
And yeah, man, it's just I don't know, it's just wild looking back at all that shit.
And dude, relative to that, I think, being away from that shit for a number of years now, like I'm able to get to kind of like the root of the issue, which is I think like I always had very low self esteem. I desperately wanted to be liked, and also I felt like I'm depressed a lot of the time. And it's like it's no coincidence that I was seeking out all these different things to help change that. And like now it's you know you know one of the toughest aspects of just leaving that shit behind is like you're forced to confront all these issues, and if they're not readily available in front of you right at that moment, they'll be revealed to you, and then it's like you can either go back to what you were doing or you can choose to like develop the tools to address this shit. But
Mm-hmm.
you know I remember seeing and hearing people like going to 12-step meetings when I first tried to get my shit together, and I would hear these people, they'd have these like wonderful revelations and just talk about how wonderful life was. And it's like you know it's still difficult for me to think that somebody has those, because I never experienced that. I think without a doubt, like life is 1,000 times easier now, but I don't know that I don't wake up with a smile on my face. It takes a lot of work to get to the point where it's just like, okay, I'm going to do this. This is what I have to do today.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to like, you know, to not be a bummer for people, because I think I'm naturally depressive, and I'm just it's just a nonstop battle to combat that, and it's a lot of fucking work. But honestly, like if I had known like how much work had gone into trying to unravel like this puzzle, man, I don't know that I would have readily made the leap. I'm glad I did, because it's a much easier way of living. It's a much more productive way of living. It's much better for my family, but it's it's not fucking easy, but and it's always going to be a challenge. But what choice do you have?
Right. It's either you accept that you have to put in that work or accept that you are going to be miserable.
Hmm.
Like that misery is always right around the corner as soon as you
Hmm.
run out of whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, and yeah, I had the same thing. I have bipolar disorder, so I'm either the happiest person you've ever met in your
Hmm.
life or I'm one bad review away from killing myself. Like
Yeah, I get it, man.
and yeah, dude, and
Mhm.
like so that played a big part in why or they tell me that probably played a big part into why I got into drugs, but I agree. I think I'm just like a naturally kind of depressed person. Um Self-esteem definitely played a big part. My self-esteem is shit.
Mhm.
And I mean it still is. Like I don't know if there's a way you can ever really improve that like at your core.
I
And it
don't know
really
either, man. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I feel the same, man, because I'm 45 years old, and I wish that I could sit here and tell you that I'm completely free of thinking about what other people think of me, or even better yet, just how I am on my own and how I view myself. I feel like I'm much better now than I was 5, 10, 15 years ago, but at the same time, um, I don't feel rock solid.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
it's all a work in progress, man. And it's one good thing is, you know, one thing that I enjoy now about, living this way is that, the days fly by. And it's like at the end of each day, I'm just like, oh man, I wish I had more time to do this. But at the same time, like that's what kind of gets me fired up, for the next one.
Mm-hmm.
There are days where I'm just like, dude, I fucking hate all this. I just hate having to do this shit, you know. But then, when that clears, it's just like, all right, I'm glad I have all this shit and I'm able to do all this stuff. And it is nice to have. I'll take the problems that I have now over the problems that I had 10 years ago any day.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I always say that my worst day sober is still exponentially better than my best day I had when I was doing drugs,
Mm.
because it's a different set of problems, but not being so preoccupied with finding drugs, selling drugs, doing drugs, trying to make drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to manufacture meth in a Gatorade bottle in a Walmart parking lot once,
How'd it go?
and it did not work. The Gatorade bottle exploded.
Oh no.
There was a bunch of like, it was me. We're in this like big ass like F-350, and the bottle exploded and blew out the two side windows and spiderwebbed the windshield. And yeah, dude, it's fucking stupid, dude. Like, there was like, to be honest, I don't even remember what we put in, but it was a bunch of like Sudafed and like I think rock salt. Like, yeah, dude, it was so dumb. But but not being preoccupied with all jokes aside, like with all the drug related shit, like I feel like I'm more equipped to deal with the
Hmm.
problems that occur that everybody deals with, addicts and non-addicts,
Yeah.
like the sober people and drunk or people who do use stuff, like
Hmm.
the everyday problems that I didn't have to deal with back then because I had so much other shit to worry about.
Right.
And yeah, like it's nice, and I will take all of these problems every single day than
Yeah.
to have to deal with an hour of the other problems.
I agree
And
100%.
like I was gonna say, sorry, I
Yeah.
was gonna say, and like you said, it's not perfect every day. Like no person's life is,
Hmm.
and yeah. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, not at all, man. But yeah, I think right now, like, you know, there's always going to be issues, and I think there's never going to be a time where you just feel like, oh man, like things are actually very cool, and I'm, very chill and very at peace with everything that's happening in my life. And it was difficult for me to like come to that realization because for a long time, and even into adulthood, I was accustomed to just comfort seeking. And it partly as a kid it was like obesity. It's like I just wanted to eat, and as an adult it came with like drugs and alcohol. So moving away from that has been like one of the bigger challenges, and getting to the point where it's just like, all right, at the end of the day, like, I might feel okay about like everything that I did today, and like feel like I made progress in the things that I'm working toward. But at the same time, it's like, you know there's going to be things that like I'm going to wake up and have to instantly address tomorrow. And like, I should not be stressed about that. It's just, the nature of what life is, man.
For sure, for sure. If you had to give, I guess, one piece of advice to someone who is struggling right now with addiction to anything, whether it's drugs, alcohol, food, anything, what would you say?
Just take some kind of action. Like anything is better than like what you're doing right now. Like, even if it's like, all right, if you go to like one 12-step meeting and don't go back for, another 6 months, it's like, all right, you did something different today to try to change your situation with what's fucking you up. Um, I would have to give more than one thing because a bunch of things are coming to mind now. But it's like, I
No,
think if
please.
if you, it's much easier to address the problem if you look at your behavior objectively as opposed to emotionally. It's very easy to get wrapped up in the emotion and think like, "Fuck, I'm a piece of shit. Why do I keep doing this?" Whereas if you look at it objectively, be like, okay, kind of break it down. If you break it down in terms of like a fucking flow chart or something, it's like when I do this, this happens, and when I do that, this happens. And if you could constantly, start to eliminate, you know, specific behaviors and replace them with others, you can eliminate all this undesirable shit that's happening with these shitty behaviors. So, kind of look at it from as like an outside observer to your own life. And at that point, I think you'll start to see changes happen in your life, and shit'll start to improve because you're just compounding the issue by putting the pressure on yourself with the emotionality that you're putting into the issue. It's one of the most difficult things to like get past, but just start looking at it, you know, like start looking at yourself like you're your own like, therapist, just like trying to help you. Like, all right, what is, fucking Mike up right now? It's like, all right, if you're blowing all your money on drugs, it's like, okay, why are you blowing all your money on drugs? It's like, what kind of drug are you doing? It's like, all right, we could backtrack from there and just try to do something each day, relative to giving yourself a better life. And you're not going to unfuck it all in one day, a month, or even probably a year. But at the same time, it's like just a series of actions that you take toward improving your own life and just getting rid of this shit and just, at least making the problem better is going to go a long way to you eventually overcoming the problem. And, I heard people say it, when I first started to get my shit together, that, if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. And I truly feel that way because, like, I can pinpoint, a million things that could be deemed as rock bottoms, but just at those points, I would have never thought that, like, what I'm able to do now, is possible. It's like, I'm clear eyed and I'm doing a podcast with somebody I like at fucking 11:30 in the morning. Whereas, 10 years ago, I'd be, desperately waiting for my phone to go off that somebody's got fucking pills that I've been asking for a couple of days because I ran out of the ones that I got for free from the fucking pharmacy. Yep. I would not have foreseen that this would be my life 10 years ago. So, just know that, as difficult as shit may be now, if you put in the time, the effort to just take care of yourself, you could have what you want out of life.
That's great advice. That kind of piggyback off that, one of my favorite mantras in all of like recovery, just in general, is progress, not perfection, which is kind of exactly what you're saying there. I think it's doing, like you said, doing one thing to improve your situation a day. That's something I wish I would have gotten that advice back in the day when I needed it, because that was a good ass answer, dude. That was a really good answer. That was great advice.
But dude, even so, even that, without all that shit, I know even yesterday, I knew yesterday that I wasn't going to do shit all day. It was just a day where, like, I knew I was just going to sit around and watch football and just not do anything. And even though, that can rejuvenate you, I still would feel guilty at the end of the day that I didn't accomplish a lot. So, I made the concession. It's like, all right, I'm going to do that. But, I went to jujitsu first thing in the morning. I put some orders together for people that ordered my book. So it's like, I got some things accomplished during the day while also doing that shit. So I felt good about going to bed that night with what I got done during the day. And I also got to chill a lot too.
For sure. Something my wife has helped. She actually just graduated college. She's cool in psychology, so she knows how to like fuck my brain up and all that. But she started having me like write like a daily goal, a weekly goal, and a monthly goal. And like it can be something so small, but it's just like giving yourself that like little bit of, what is it, serotonin,
yeah,
serotonin, like that little like submitting stories is a big one for me, like, because I sell stories to different outlets and stuff. So my goal yesterday was submit 2 stories. It took me 10 minutes. It's not like it was this huge undertaking, like, but it felt really good to be able to like check that box and like, and yeah, dude, I agree. That it does feel good, because man, I would have never guessed that I would feel guilty about not doing anything when I used to be so content not doing anything. But that was my favorite thing to do.
But dude, Nick, the thing was, it's like, it might not have been productive, but like you were actively engaged in something all day. And it was like the acquisition, the fucking, the doing, the fucking figuring out how you're going to get more drugs. It's like, you can delude yourself into thinking that like you're being productive. And I think it does kind of like, I don't know, it fucks with a certain part of your brain that confuses that for actually being productive. And I think that's another thing that ends up perpetuating addiction is that, at the end of the day, you're exhausted because you've been doing shit all day. None of it's been good for you, but you've been fucking busy as shit all fucking day long doing bad shit.
Yeah, dude. Oh my God. I remember there was about a 3-month period there where I was a prolific middleman. I was like the middleman of all middlemen, dude. Like I mean, I'm talking like I was doing like 20 grand of deals, like facilitating like a week. And so I had one guy, the guy who we tried to cook meth in his truck. he would pick me up at like 5 in the morning, take me down to the trap house on the south side. I would, pick up whatever he needed. He would drive me back to my house, and then he would go and I think he was selling his, like he was
Hmm.
picking up for middling, so he was middling the middle.
Hmm.
And then so he would sell his shit, come pick me up. We would drive 20 minutes down to the south side, drop me back off. Dude, like fucking 12 to 15 times a day. My
Yeah.
entire day was spent in a car and then driving back and forth. And like, I feel like people have an idea that like trap houses are always just flooded with drugs.
Yeah.
They're not. Like,
Yeah.
still have to wait for these assholes to get their shit. And like, I mean, I'm sure you've bought shit. Like, I'm sure you've dealt with drug dealers where it's like, oh yeah, I'm right around the corner. Meanwhile, they're in a different fucking state. Like,
Yeah. What corner are you right around from?
exactly.
I
And like,
believe that you're around a corner, but not mine.
100%. Like, and they're justifying it, dude. They're like, well, I am on Jefferson Street. It's 9 miles away from where he is, but I am around a corner. Like, and yeah, dude, fucking.
That's
Go
one
ahead.
thing that always used to get me is like, I feel like, when I would run out of pills, like there were a number of people in my contact list that I know I could hit up and probably get them. But then there were times where like nobody had them, and I could be prone to paranoia. But back then it was just like, I don't believe that these people can't obtain pills for me. And there's a very specific reason, which I'm not aware of yet. But when I find out, I'm going to go nuclear. They're keeping them from me for some reason. It's like, I want to give you money. Like, why won't you get them for me?
Yeah, dude. Fucking, what drove me nuts is like, and I get that like these guys probably had a lot of money coming in, but and maybe this is just again me deluding myself into thinking I was more than I was, but like I was a goddamn good middleman, dude.
Hmm.
Like I brought these people so much money.
Hmm.
I felt, I no, I presently feel like I was entitled to a modicum of better treatment than the average
Uh-huh.
person that they were
Uh-huh.
selling to. Like
Hmm.
it's just, and dude, like I never understood, like I might be annoyed that it's going to take you 2 hours to get to me, but tell me it's going to take you 2 hours to get to me.
Right.
Don't tell
Yeah.
me you'll be here in 8 minutes when you have no intention of being here in
I
8
know, it
minutes.
still drives me insane too. It's like,
I don't get it.
yeah, I almost want to like reach out and just, kind of like a misconnection, be like, hey, you said you would be there in a half hour, but you ended up
Yeah.
taking 4 hours, or you never fucking came at all.
Oh, dude, that was the worst. That was the worst one. Fucking went and did just, yeah, they would always, because you, if you were like me, you'd be checking in every like 15, 20
Yeah.
minutes because they would constantly tell you like, oh yeah, 5 minutes away, oh just had to stop for gas real quick, I'll be right there, oh yeah, I'm just grabbing food, like.
Hmm.
And eventually they would just stop texting you back, and I'd be like, shit, was I too overbearing?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I wasn't. They were being a fucking dickhead. Like they knew they weren't going to be here in 10 minutes because they are in a different city.
Uh-huh.
It fucking, I'm still mad about it. I'm
I know.
still mad about it right
It
now, dude.
makes no
Like,
sense, dude. I honestly like. I view time as the most valuable commodity, and there are times I think when things are either going really well or things are going really bad, and I just don't want to address the things that are going bad, that I start like reverting back to this shit. Like things that there's no way I could ever resolve these issues, but like I'll think back to things like that. And it's like, why did you not just show up? I
yeah,
have money to give you for fucking drugs.
it's the easiest job in the world,
No doubt, man. It's like, what are you doing,
dude.
man?
Yeah, I'll never understand it. And it's like, it is a phenomenon. It is
Hmm.
like universal drug dealer behavior. And for a while I branched out on my own, and like I would buy drugs in bulk and sell them as an actual drug dealer and not a middleman.
Hmm.
And fucking, I was the most punctual drug dealer you've ever met in your life. I was honest. I only stole a little bit from every person I sold to
Hmm.
because I had my own addiction to feed. Like,
Uh-huh.
charge it to the game.
That's pretty good.
And yeah, like, but I, even having been in their shoes, I do not understand it.
Hmm.
I don't think I ever will. I think it's one of those like mysteries of the world. Drug dealers just refuse. Because at a point, I gotta believe it is. He's texting me, I'll be there in 10 minutes, and he's going, I'm definitely fucking not going to be there. I'm not going to be there in 10 minutes for him.
Nick, I just
Why
think
would
they
I?
just can't tell time, man. I think they just know that's a thing to say, and I just don't think they're aware of what time is.
1 o'clock is when I texted you. I told you 8 minutes. Now it is 3:46. It has been 10 minutes. Like, yeah, dude, it's fucking nightmare. I'm so glad I don't have to live through that
I know,
bullshit
man.
anymore. I'm glad you don't either, man.
The same, man.
Hey, Mike, I really appreciate you coming on here, man. This has been so much fun. Like I was telling you before, I'm a huge fan of yours, and just it is an honor to talk to you, dude.
Well, the feeling's mutual, brother. It's been nice talking to you, man. I really enjoyed this, man, and I hope to do it again soon.
Hell yeah, absolutely. Where can people find you, and what can they find you on?
You can check out both my podcasts. I do Dad Meet with Tim Butterly, and I do Lil Stinkers, that Nick mentioned earlier with my buddies Jake Mattera and John DelCollo. It's a true crime podcast, but it's mostly us just having fun and dicking around. So it's like the later side of true crime. You can check that out anywhere where you find your podcast, and then also you can check out my book On Percs, which is a compilation of all the posts that I made on Facebook during my perk era. I put them all in a book, and then I gave a current day analysis to what was happening under each one. You can check that out at onpercs.com.
It's absolutely outstanding. All
Thank you,
three of
Nick.
the things you just mentioned are outstanding.
Thank you, brother.
All right, Mike, I appreciate it, man, and I will talk to you soon.
All right, you're the man, Nick. Thank you, dude.
Later, buddy.